Hey folks, I had an experience earlier today that I made me think maybe I could be helpful and useful in a way, and I thought I should probably do that. And that was related to something that you're going to be seeing. If you haven't seen it already, you're going to be seeing a lot more of in the not too distant future, because our press has still kind of not figured out what's happening in the world and how to deal with the authoritarian movement that we have in the country. So it's about this concept of the heritage American. You're going to start seeing that thrown around a lot more. It has made its way through the kind of fever swamps of the far right, and they are now starting to push it out more. And the question was, they had posted this, that there's somebody who's very intelligent, very well read, uh, educated, well informed, all that stuff, and they were not familiar with this. And I will just say, I am not following the far right in the way that I used to. But I still have kept enough of an eye to be aware of this and kind of what's going on with it. And I kind of wanted to just talk about it from a narrative standpoint and the way that they're using it and that it will be used. So the way that they're framing what a heritage American is this idea that it's an American who can kind of trace their roots back, or can be included in some broad way in what they are defining as the people who established the country. And they have done that. They have succeeded in doing that. American history has been taught in such a way that we believe, kind of collectively, broadly, when we talk about the people who established the country, the way that that is conceived is essentially white people, right? But it is also kind of a specific group of white people. It is, Protestants from certain parts of Europe, England, Dutch. You go back to the original colonies, the original people who came over here, and then, but that of course, that variety of history that we've been taught and that variety of history that they're talking about kind of erases the contribution, the fact that the entire economy, the fact that the U.S. was able to become economically stable and economically formidable, I should say, due to slave labor. Of course, that's all pushed under the rug. But what they're talking about with what they're doing with Heritage American, in a kind of narrative sense, is they're starting to set up a way to be able to say, in not so many words, of course, they'll use different codes for it, they'll use different dog whistles, but it is going to be like, what kind of white person are you, as far as whether or not you have access to what we think of as like the broad spectrum of enfranchisement, right? Do you have access to free speech? Do you have access to the ballot box? Do you have access to all of those things? Because when you go back in American history and you look at kind of where we started, there was a very small minority of people who had like full enfranchisement under the Constitution, in the First Republic, in the way that we talk about it. And so they are starting to set up being able to decide which white people are going to be able to have power to make decisions about the future, power to be involved in the discussions at all about the decisions for the future. And that's kind of what this Heritage American thing is. And they are going to come up with a whole bunch. They already have a handful of ways that they are kind of fighting amongst themselves to figure out what the definition is going to solidly be. But that is the direction that this heritage American thing goes. Now, what that means in the future, who knows? There's part of me that initially honestly thinks that if more white people start really feeling the kind of disenfranchisement, the kind of oppressive nature of the way that this country worked for a long time, and that has always worked for people of color, then that may actually light a fire under some asses that have been not quite so interested in being motivated. So on that hand, yeah, that's possible, you know. And on the other hand, it is another layer of burden of stress, of kind of cognitive emotional load that is going to contribute to an already growing, you know, all of those things now, like the kind of chaos that the far right is creating is really about demotivating people. And it is about convincing people that either there's nothing they can do, or confusing them to the point that they can't really make a decision about what to even try and do. And so this is going to add to that as well. So I thought it would be good maybe if ahead of time some of us talked about it and made clear kind of what it is and how it's going to be used. Because it's very clear, if you follow the far right, if you've paid attention to what they've been saying, you know, even just the last 15 years, much less you go back, you know, another 30, 40, this is all of a piece, you know. This is part of them establishing their worldview as the actual structure and way that the country works, as opposed to them trying to, what it was for a long time, was them having to compete with the other ways that other people see the world and the country in order to try and, you know, try and keep that thing in there. So, yeah. So that is what this whole Heritage American thing is about. And, you know, keep an eye out. You're going to see it. It's coming. There's enough of them already starting to talk about it and starting to use it. And again, like I said, our press is really just not up to the task anymore, or if it ever was, they're not really understanding, or if they're not understanding, they're jockeying for a position in the future that will be beneficial to them. And not all of them, you know, again, not all of them. There are really, really good independent journalists out there who are doing the work. And, you know, occasionally there is a journalist who is slipping by in, you know, the New York Times and the Washington Post and that stuff. But for the most part, the actual, you know, the legacy press, the big news institutions that we have in the country, they're not going to really be on top of this, because they haven't been on top of any of it coming up to here. So I just wanted to kind of talk about it for a minute. I didn't want to write a big long thing on it, because I don't want to have to think about it that long. It's not that complicated. So yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. If I don't see you before then, Happy New Year. And you know, keep an eye on my Patreon. Go subscribe. It's only $2. So thanks a lot.